Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest is truly one of the greats. Place kicking in the National Football League. Kicking field goals, of course, was his game. Mr. Automatic, the Great Dane. Played in the NFL from 1982 all the way to the year 2007, most notably for the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. Was named to the All-Decade Team in the 1980s. Was named to the All-Decade Team in the 1990s. And most notably, one of two field goal kicking exclusive players inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame along with Jan Stenerud. It is Morten Andersen, ladies and gentlemen, and naturally what he would like to talk about first is the Grammys. How you doing, Morten? Thanks for doing this.
Hey, doing great. Great to be with you. Yeah, so I just overheard what you guys were talking about feeling old, and I have to concur. I recorded it, so I didn't have to sit through stuff I didn't want to sit through, which was 80% of it.
That's right.
But
yeah,
when I saw ABBA, I raised my hands in the air because that was the only group I knew.
That's
ABBA
awesome.
And I wonder what the odds were on them winning a Grammy, because I don't think they did. But
I believe the Grateful Dead won a Grammy. That's how far back they went.
I know them.
Yes, I figured you
I know
would.
them. Anyway, yeah, you're right. It was a time capsule, man. I was like, wow. I'm 62, and where's Creedence Clearwater Revival, back on Turn Overdrive? Where's Led Zeppelin? Anyway,
they milked 4 hours out of that broadcast.
That's impressive, I have to say.
Yeah.
I thought the guy Noah did a good job, but 4 hours. That's like the Baton Death March, man.
Well, glad we could relate on the same thing with the Grammys. It does make you feel old when you don't know any of the names for Best New Artist. Morten, listen, before I get into like Super Bowl 57 specific, I'm just curious because we have the opportunity to sort of get from your perspective as someone who really did his best to perfect the craft of place kicking, almost hitting at an 80% rate throughout your career. Now, when you look at the NFL place kickers as a whole, as a group, 32 teams wide, are you amazed by, I know you were able to do this, but just the league-wide proficiency at kicking 50-plus yard field goals? Let's start there. And I guess conversely, also the strange effect of having moved the extra point back and that troubling kickers.
Yeah, it's amazing what they're doing now. You're right. They're very proficient. The 60-yarder is the old 50-yarder. The 50-yarder now is the old 40-yarder. There's a couple of reasons I think this, when I was coming up in the league in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have a designated long snapper. We didn't have the K-balls. We had a sweaty offensive lineman that just went on a 12-play drive with gloves on, and now he had to put on a different hat and snap the ball back 7 yards, not 8 yards as it is now, 7 yards. And that evolved over time. The 7 went to 7.5, and now it's at 8 yards to snap on place kicks. We didn't really have a designated holder. It was whoever you could talk into holding the ball. Now it's pretty much the punter. Sometimes I would have a backup quarterback. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to hold the clipboard and be involved in the offense. But yet I got him to kneel down and take a snap. But so there's a couple of reasons I think they've gotten better. The talent pool's there. And also back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, a lot of the kickers were foreign-born. They were imported from soccer leagues and from Europe and South America and Mexico. Now most of them are American-born. So they do it earlier. They do it from junior high, from Little League. They start kicking at an earlier age. So that in it by itself makes them better. You also have a large pool of retired NFL guys now that were really good in the league who are coaching and out there with clinics and out there with companies that help these young kids. So there's a lot more talent coaching. The special teams, I just remember the special teams guys, coaches in the old days, they left us alone, if it wasn't broken. And if it was broken, they got another guy. That was pretty much it. There was no teaching, your plant foot's too close to the ball or, any of those things. So guys are better. You look at Justin Tucker, you look at these guys, they're kicking at a very high. But they have all the tools too.
Yeah.
It's a very high level, but they have the tools.
Do you look at a Justin Tucker in the same way? And I'll make a tennis comparison. Do you look in the same way that John McEnroe looks at a Roger Federer and says, "Oh my God, this guy is better than I could ever have imagined being. Do you look at a Justin Tucker and sort of look at him as alien to you? Like, this couldn't have happened.
No, because I was really good. I was the man in the 80s and 90s. And
I know you were.
I think Stenerud was looking at me going, who's this beast, right?
Yeah.
So everything has its time and place. And I think we just acknowledge that. And we don't demean any particular era because it's different. You can't compare. It's not apples to apples. It just isn't. I think I would have flourished in this environment had I been 40 years younger.
I don't think there's anybody who watched you play that would have doubted that for 1 second. Let's talk.
So, but I'm not diminishing what Justin,
Yeah.
As far as the extra points, that's a 33-yard field goal, and that's the mindset that you ought to have. That's what I tell my guys that I work with. It's not an extra. It's a 1-point field goal from 33 yards. And so what happens a lot of times with these guys, they try to aim too much instead of just find the middle and trust the middle. Why do we aim for the middle? Because the middle never changes. Very simple. So hit it and trust it. You can't guide these short kicks. You should make 40 yards and in 10 out of 10 times in the NFL. If not, you really shouldn't be there.
Super Bowl 57, if it comes down to a game-winning kick, who do you trust more, Harrison Butker of the Chiefs or Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles?
They're both pretty good. I think both have strong legs. Harrison's kind of had a rough go at it, mostly with the extra points, but he made a big kick in the championship game to put the Chiefs in. So Elliott has kicked a bunch. I don't know how many how many game-winning kicks he's had. It's every time I looked at the Eagles, it looked like they were blowing somebody out. So, and they score, in the first quarter, they usually get up by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think they're one of the teams that they may lead the league in first quarter scoring. You guys would know that more than I haven't looked at the research, but it always looked like second quarter, Eagles are up 21-0. So Harrison Butker has probably been tested a little bit more in game-deciding situations, but I think they're both very capable. So it's kind of a toss-up to me.
How about the game itself? Eagles favored by 2 points, Morten. The total in the game is 50.5. Do you give an edge to either side? Obviously, both of these teams have had stellar seasons. We had the more recent doubts about Patrick Mahomes' injury that has caused some concern for the Chiefs. He appeared to get through that okay this past week, though maybe a keener eye saw it differently. Jalen Hurts has had his own injury problems. How do you view this game? Where do you lean?
It's tight. It's a tight game. Both good offenses, quarterbacks that are mobile. Eagles can run the football. I think they led the league in rushing touchdowns, 38 or 39 touchdowns. So that's going to help them possess the ball and have Mahomes just chill on the sideline. But it could go, I really like Andy Reid as a guy that will have something up his sleeve, something new, something. And certainly with the offensive arsenal he has, they'll be able to do something really creative, which they're very good at. But I kind of like the Eagles in this one. I think they've had the season that kind of had solidified them as the NFC favorite. They took care of business at home field advantage like Kansas City, but I think their road has been a little bit smoother in Kansas City. And I think Kansas City is also a little more banged up than the Eagles. But I think it's a field goal game either way you look at it.
By the way, this is for prop players. They use a different ball for kickoffs to begin the Super Bowl than they do otherwise. Are you aware of that? Do you believe in that being a more difficult kick to have as a touchback? Some people bet on this kind of thing in the Super Bowl.
Well, I always thought that they had for every play there was a new ball brought in. So if that's something we might have to look up. I thought every play had a new ball. I don't think it'll make a difference. Put a ball down, aim it, fire.
Aim and fire. Yeah, they do it for commemorative reasons in the Super Bowl
cool.
itself. Yeah,
Morten, I like that a lot. Yeah,
Morten, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you. We'll both try to learn some music for next year, so we don't feel as old as we do right now.
Dancing Queen with Appa. I'm all over that.
Okay, we'll mark that down. Thank you, Morten. Morten Andersen, everybody. The Great Dane, NFL Hall of Famer, going with the Eagles. No difference, a wash with the field goal place game between Butker and Elliott as well.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.